Have you ever stopped to think about the sheet of paper in your notebook, the book on your desk, or even the paper wrapping from your lunch? We use it so casually that it feels almost invisible. But paper has been one of the most transformative inventions in human history, shaping civilizations, spreading ideas, and recording everything from sacred texts to grocery lists. What if I told you that without paper, there would be no books as we know them, no mass education, no newspapers, no printing press, and our modern world would look very different? The story of how paper was first created is not only surprising, but also full of twists. It begins in ancient China, travels across continents through war and trade, and eventually reshapes human knowledge forever. Today, in Simple Things, Surprising Histories, we'll uncover the origins of paper, how it spread across cultures, and why this simple sheet is one of humanity's most powerful inventions. Before paper, humans had many other ways to record their words and ideas, but none of them were easy. In Mesopotamia, people pressed wedge-shaped marks onto clay tablets. Durable, yes, but also heavy and hard to store. Imagine carrying your school notes on bricks. Ancient Egyptians used papyrus, made from the stems of the papyrus plant, beaten and pressed into sheets. Papyrus scrolls were lighter, but they cracked and decayed quickly outside Egypt's dry climate. In India, people wrote on palm leaves, carefully cutting and drying them into strips. In Europe and the Middle East, parchment made from animal skin was common. It lasted a long time, but required enormous resources. A single large book might demand dozens or even hundreds of animal skins. All of these methods preserved knowledge, but they were costly, slow to produce, and limited its spread. Humanity was ready for something better. And that's when paper appeared. The credit for inventing true paper goes to Cai Lun, a Chinese court official in the Eastern Han Dynasty around the year 105 CE. Cai Lun experimented with everyday materials, bark from mulberry trees, old rags, fishing nets, and even hemp waste. He soaked them in water, mashed them into pulp, and spread the mixture into thin sheets. Once dried, they formed a light, strong, and smooth surface that was perfect for writing. Fragments of early paper have been found in China dating back 2 centuries before Cai Lun, but it was his refinement and promotion of the process that made it widespread. This was a turning point. Paper was cheaper than silk, sturdier than bamboo strips, and more portable than carved tablets. The Chinese government quickly realized its value for keeping records, and paper began replacing older writing materials across the empire. Fun fact, Cai Lun's contribution was considered so important that he became a celebrated historical figure in China, remembered with the title God of Papermaking. For several centuries, papermaking remained a closely guarded secret in China. But inventions have a way of traveling. Through the Silk Road, paper slowly spread to Central Asia. The decisive moment came after a battle in 751 CE near the Talas River in present-day Kazakhstan. Chinese papermakers were captured by the Abbasid Caliphate. Instead of hiding the skill, the Abbasids embraced it. Soon, paper mills appeared in Samarkand, and from there, the technology spread westward across the Islamic world. In Baghdad, paper became vital for administration, scholarship, and science. Imagine the great house of wisdom, scholars translating Greek, Persian, and Indian works fueled by the availability of paper books. From the Arab world, paper-making knowledge entered North Africa. Spain, and finally medieval Europe. By the 11th century, European scribes had begun using paper, but it took another great invention to truly unleash its potential. In the mid-15th century, Johannes Gutenberg invented the printing press in Germany. Before this, every manuscript had to be copied by hand, often on expensive parchment. Printing with movable type was revolutionary, but it needed the right partner: affordable paper. Paper and print together created an explosion of books. Knowledge, once restricted to elites, spread to merchants, students, and workers. The Protestant Reformation, the Scientific Revolution, and eventually the Enlightenment all depended on this duo, press and paper. Fun fact: by the year 1500, less than 50 years after Gutenberg's press, Europe had already printed around 20 million books. That's the moment when paper began to reshape entire civilizations. Over time, paper became deeply tied to culture everywhere. In China, it was used for money, art, and even ceremonial rituals. In Japan, papermaking evolved into exquisite handmade washi, used not just for writing, but for architecture and crafts. In Europe and the Americas, paper became the backbone of government, business contracts, news media, and literature. Without paper, democracy itself might look very different. Ballots, newspapers, and pamphlets were all paper-driven. Nations were built on documents written and spread on paper. Today, paper is everywhere, but it's no longer made by hand. From the 19th century onwards, industrial paper-making machines began using wood pulp to mass-produce sheets. This made paper affordable and widely available, feeding the modern need for books, newspapers, packaging, and more. Here's a surprising fact. Despite the digital age, global paper consumption remains enormous. Every year, the world produces over 400 million tons of paper, and more than half of it is used for packaging. While digital screens have replaced some uses, packaging, hygiene products, and stationery keep paper deeply woven into our lives. Of course, this also raises concerns about deforestation and waste. Thankfully, recycling and sustainable forestry are helping reduce the environmental footprint. But the fact that a 2,000-year-old invention is still essential today shows how revolutionary it truly was. When we think of human inventions, we often picture complex machines or dazzling technologies. But sometimes the world changes because of something so simple that it's easy to overlook. Paper gave us a way to preserve ideas, share knowledge widely, and connect across time and space. From Cai Lun's first pulp experiments to the spread along the Silk Road to the explosion of books after Gutenberg, the story of paper is really the story of civilization itself. So the next time you write a note, sketch a drawing, or unwrap a package, remember, you're holding thousands of years of history in your hands. That's the surprising history of paper, a story that shaped the world in ways we rarely stop to notice. From ancient China to your desk today, paper has carried ideas, revolutions, and memories across generations. If you enjoyed this dive into the hidden story behind something so ordinary, give this video a like, share it with a friend, and subscribe to Simple Things, Surprising Histories for more stories that reveal the extraordinary past of everyday things.